Fantastic. So I do have a question or a bunch of questions about music for you, David. But the first
Okay.
one I'd like to ask is around success. Obviously, Jack Delroy in Late Night with the Devil is preoccupied with success. It haunts, and it is a huge part of that film. And I wanted to ask you about your relationship with the word success and how that's changed and developed over your career. I'm not drawing comparisons direct between you and the character, of course, but the word success and people's relationships with it is different. I work with a lot of young people that struggle with that, for example, and the definitions of it. So how do you define success, and how has your relationship with it changed going from The Dark Knight through Dune, through Oppenheimer, and now with Late Night with the Devil as well?
The word success is one of the trickiest words in the language. It is so potent, and it's a prism of all these different meanings to us. It is a beautiful word. It is a dangerous word. It is a painful word. It is a rewarding word. One of the things I learned early on was that success was very important to me, but the way I defined success was going to continue to evolve throughout the course of my life. Back in 2002, success meant living one day without the benefit of heroin. A few months after that, success meant being able to get out of bed, go to a job, get to a meeting, and get home safely.
Mm.
Many years after that, 5 years after I started to really, get into the tenure of my sobriety, if you will,
Mm.
I looked at success as being the opportunity to do the art that I loved and get paid to do it. Eventually, that success shifted to, again, being not only be paid to do it, but make a living doing it became a definition of success to me.
Mm.
And I'll tell you, it continues to grow and change. Where I am today, success for me is being able to surround myself and work with people who are exceptional at their work and their craft, who elevate story, who are kind people, who I would be, grateful to spend time with, whether we were making a movie or not,
Mm.
and ultimately to learn to depend upon myself for my safety, my security, to be able to count on myself to be there for myself when I need myself the most. That's a huge thing that I'm striving for as we speak on this very day, and I will work every day until I get there.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I want to touch as well on, in terms of those motivations. I know that you're a fan, and a fan of Nine Inch Nails and kind of goth and industrial culture, and that heavier, darker sort of stuff. I checked out a previous interview, and I wanted to ask you, in terms of music and kind of audio influences, David, things that get you through the day. As someone with a disability who grew up with cerebral palsy, kind of growing up in goth culture, and that kind of made me feel okay. I felt like I was, even though I looked a little different, it felt cool,
Yeah.
as to be a part of that scene. And I wonder, do you draw on those difficult days that you've faced in the past with some of the challenges you faced? Do you draw from music, and what did you get from, that kind of darker sort of vibe, the goth and industrial scene, for example?
Music is life to me. Music is an enigma to me, and it is something that I am drawn to like moths to the flame. I was, you know, 12, 13, deeply depressed and anxious young man who got his hands on the cassette tape of Violator and started listening to that album to the point that the tape got run thin. And Pretty Hate Machine a year after that I found when I think I was like a freshman in high school. And then I just went into this exploratory period of my life where goth, industrial, rock, all became the soundscape and the score of my life. And what was really interesting, music has carried me through and and inspired me to and transported me through some of the most difficult and also most wonderful chapters of my life. But there are that handful of artists and music styles that, whether it was in my really deep struggles with suicidal attempts and ideation through my addiction years, all the way to where I am now as a clean, sober dad of two who is, pretty much a grown up, even though I don't like that word. There's certain artists that live within those chapters, and that's beautiful and it's wonderful. But there's certain musicians and artists that carry through, including, bands like Failure, hugely important band for me back in the 90s. I saw Failure opening for Tool, who's yet another one of the bands that has carried me through decades now. I mean, I had Undertow, in high school, but when I went to go do The Dark Knight, I was in London, and this was before you know, streaming, or if people were, I wasn't hip to like Napster or any of that stuff. So I didn't know how to get music other than physical media. So I found a record store in London so I could buy a copy of Undertow and listen to it on a headphones when I was in my trailer preparing to go on set for Dark Knight. Nine Inch Nails for sure. And a whole bevy of other bands that kind of have made it through all the generations. Spiritualized is another one that I really, they were a big part of my using years, but now as a clean person, that music is still very influential and important for me.
Fantastic, David. I know you're going to be respectful of your time. I'd love to talk to you more about Failure. Another Space Song is probably my anthem. So maybe another time we can talk about.
Well, can I tell you one thing, Dom? Because it's important to my acting journey. And this is for anybody who's reading this and thinking about when do we listen to our heart? How do we follow our heart? I wrote a film called Animals, which is a fictional story about two people who are intensely dysfunctional as well as being heroin addicts. It was very inspired by a lot of my own experiences. And there's a scene in the film where the guy shoplifts a bunch of CDs, and he sells most of them to get drug money, but he keeps the one tape that he gets, and it's Fantastic Planet, to give the girl he loves. And when we were making the film, I had to reach out to the band through a friend of mine whose brother plays with the band, and I had to reach out to them to see if they'd give me permission. And I have had the incredible honor of now becoming not only a collaborator with the band Failure, but they're very dear friends of mine. And it's just like, goes to say, if you're reading this and you're going, I don't know if I should take that leap. Should I reach out? Should I try and get my demo to that person? Should I try and, play my song for that person? You got to give it your shot.
Yeah, man, that's how I got here. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I know it's short, so hopefully we'll do this again soon. And thank you so much for sharing about your musical taste with me, David. I really, really appreciate it.